Welcome to Rocketship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today's guest is Delphine Bugner, working at BAM, the French agency where we already had Charlotte and Alex Moreau previously. So, Delphine, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Simon. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation because I haven't recorded for like the last 2 weeks. So, quick about you: you're mobile tech lead at BAM, as I said before, like Alex and Charlotte
Yeah,
working there.
right.
And you seem to like to dive really under the hood of technology, and that's why I'm excited about today's conversation because I saw something from you about yoga, about core React Native stuff, and these are usually the things I take as granted, and I really like have huge respect for people who dive into this and like look behind the scenes. So as always, I'm looking forward to learn a lot myself, and I'm already at this point thankful for everything you've put out so far.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I like to, as you said, we use this every day. It's working, it's magic, but it's like, okay, it's not magic, it's science, it's coding. Let's understand what it is and let's understand why it was done like that. I like learning basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, but not so many people dive really into this. For example, I think I came, like, I used React Native for some time, and I never really came across the word yoga until like recently, until like they announced version 3.0, and you can get by in React Native and totally fine, probably without even knowing that yoga exists or what it is. But I think it gives a great like background into how things work. So yeah, I'm excited to explore these topics with you today. I think you have a huge insight. You will also be talking, or when this goes live, you have already talked at FJS, and you will also present at React Universe conference. Are those talks going to be the same, or are they
No,
going to
it's
be
really
different?
different. I'm going to talk about new architecture at React Universe, but yoga is the subject I will cover in FGS. Yeah, I think it's amazing because what's doing yoga is very basic. I mean, it's responsible for dimensioning everything on screen, every 8 weeks position of every containers you have. So everyone can get that, but no one understands how it works from very simple starting props. How do you get there in just a few lines of C++ code? And as you said, not many people in React Native knows how it works. I remember when I had my first tech lead internal formation, we had a process internally in BAM where we receive formation from tenured developers. This was the first time I heard about yoga. It was like 6 months after I arrived in BAM. And I remember understand absolutely nothing about the shadow nodes and how the view is different from the native view, is different from the JS view. Is it layouting? No, because the layouting is native. So why is it C++? Like, it was such confusing. Everything was mixed in my head.
I totally get that confusion, and I'm also still blown away by a lot of like the C++ things that are going on that I don't really see. But before we dive deeper into yoga, which we will do in a second, let's quickly talk about your background, because in the document you shared with me, you said something like, "I do have an uncommon journey," and I always like to hear about uncommon journeys. So tell us about how you came to be Delphine, the React Native tech lead.
Yeah, I've got a confession to make. I'm not a developer. I mean, I wasn't trained as one. I was trained as an engineer. I've got a master in energy economics and applied mathematics in my school. And I first worked as an energy analyst in a specialized company. And I had some Python to do, some Java to do for the software we built internally. And I realized that I actually liked this part more than the PowerPoint presentation part because I was a consultant, So I asked for them to move internally and joining the tech team in this company and then deciding to go full developers in 2020, try to join a real tech companies as BAM is. I first failed the interview process because I mainly learned by myself. When I tried the second time, I got in, and I'm super proud of this decision because coding is what makes me happy on a daily basis, like crafting stuff, actually creating stuff that people are going to use, buttons that they're going to click on, everything like that. It's both cool to do on a daily basis, like coding is quite logic. It's my mathematics brain is happy to do this. It has a huge impact, like that you can actually see, and this is why I switched to to tech and coding. And I haven't done this before because I thought I wasn't made for this. Maybe because I'm a woman, because I don't like video games. I can't be a developer, so I don't play video games. And
Yeah,
2020
that's like,
went through
yeah.
it. I was like, no, I want to do this. Let's do this. I mean,
This is
passionate.
amazing. Yeah, I'm happy that you did it. I'm also excited. Like, why did it work the second time? And it's just cool that BAM gave you like a second interview chance. Did you like change your like how you approached the interview the second time?
I think I was more confident the second time. I had stuff to show. I spent the whole summer building my own portfolio online to not just saying, oh, I love coding and I want to learn because I was. So be able to show something, to show I was serious about this, not just talking about it. And I think also I was not selling myself, I was selling myself short. I was like, hey, I don't know anything, just hire me because I want to learn. Yeah, but maybe we just want to be sure that you are going to actually be able to write code lines.
So having a portfolio, like having some apps on GitHub or whatever, is still like worked for you in this case. It's probably not working for everyone. Like in countries have different requirements, but it certainly helped in your case to get that job.
Yeah, but they also like the tenacity. Like I was able to put this together to show what I was able to do, and they were like, "Okay, you're fucking brave. We like it. You never give up." And I was like, "I don't give up."
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, when I worked, like my job when I was employed is many years ago, but we were also always looking for like the people who are really excited about code, not just like, yeah, I want to do this for the money. That's okay. I mean, there are jobs where you just do this for the money, but some people are just like, hey, I built this cool random app on the App Store. Here, check it out. It's this one. I immediately know like, okay, this person comes home and instead of like playing games, he or she goes to the MacBook and like codes something that nobody on the world will use.
Yeah,
But that's the
it's like
sign that
being
people are interested.
child. Oh, I built this with my Legos. I love it. It's kind of the same. It's amazing to be able to have a job with this.
Yes.
Actually, and I will never regret this decision. I did that against my parents' advice. They were like, "No, we like you to be an energy analyst. It's cool. It's prestigious." And I was like, "Tech is for a technical job." They didn't get it, and they still regret the decision, but I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't as well. I think it was a good decision. And also, maybe a bit foreshadowing the future. It sounds like you're again switching jobs to something that then combines both of your passions, right?
Yeah, because I really loved energy stuff. It's part of my belief that we have to build better future for everyone, greener future, and energy the key of everything. So I can talk about electric market in Europe and the importance of having capacity of storage to balance renewable that you can control the production of. And so I'm leaving BAM at the end of the month to build a mobile app in React Native and Expo, universal app actually. We are going to web to for an electric vehicle company to make charging your vehicle easy for everyone in the country. Hopefully in Europe, if we grow big. It's a small
I'm
step.
excited. I will definitely. I think we're gonna have to talk again at the end of the year when you develop that application with React Native, as you
Yeah,
have.
I think it's going to
Uh,
be great.
I'm pretty sure. I'm also unrelated to this, but because you're from you're in Paris, right?
I'm living in Paris. Yeah.
Yeah, just yesterday, my wife and I watched a series, and it was about Paris and how they changed the water in the city so that everyone can get like free water. There are like 500 or by now, I don't know, like 1,000 places where you can just refill your bottle with free, clean water that's free for everyone. I think this is awesome. Like, this is an awesome invention. I don't know what's the state of this, if this is still working, but
I
I
think,
found this to be
yeah, it
really a
will be
great
perfect
idea.
for the Olympics. Access to the water. I read about that too. There's actually a law in France when you enter a bar or restaurant, they have to give you fresh water for free. And when you're in Germany or in Belgium, you ask for a bottle of water and it's like more expensive than a beer. Like, no.
It's yeah. I sometimes pay like 4 or 5 euros for a bottle of water when I think like, please just fill this bottle at like the tap here. I don't care about your bubbles in the water. Just give me like the tap water. It's unbelievable. I think water and like should just be free. Maybe you can build an app around that as well.
Yeah, this my thought exactly. Like free water everywhere in Europe. It's also a project. Nice project.
Right. Okay. So you got that job, but on top of like being excited about technology, you also adopted this, and I think this was at the React Universe description of you. I quote: "She loves exploring the how does it work under the hood aspects of tech."
Yeah.
How does it come? Like I like tech as well, but I also like to just use this stuff, and I'm happy when it works. So how comes like you take a step further and dive deep into this? Where does this interest come from?
Honestly, I don't know. It's like everyone should like it. Maybe it's my engineer background, like
That could make sense. Yeah, you, as an
like
engineer, you kind of like
like the
put together
scientific
stuff.
aspect. You look at a car, you look at a tree. Okay, so how did it grow? How does it move? And I've always liked this. Like, how does the sun and the moon go up in the sky? Science can explain that. So it's kind of the same research, but for something that I use every day. So it's exciting because I'm involved in it. I want to understand what I use, but at the same time, it's challenging on an intellectual aspect because sometimes it can get quite hard to get.
Hmm.
So it's stimulating, basically. Yeah. It's kind of,
Yeah, I
what I
definitely agree that it definitely also looks hard from the outside. Maybe we can like explore some of the magic in today's podcast. So maybe we start with a high level view on like what is yoga. If somebody just asked this, like a React Native dev who probably hasn't heard about it, could you easily describe from a very high perspective what is yoga?
Yeah. As I uh, started to say earlier, yoga, it's what you give it a tree of components with some basic styling props, flex one, align items, center, etc., etc. And from this tree, this GSX in React Native, it computes the position of everything on screen, like everything was in absolute, so height and width, top and left, for every single component in your app. So a list of coordinates. And that's it. So it's both really simple what it does, and at the same time, okay, how is it even possible, to know that?
Exactly. It's that easy, but it also brings me to the question: why do we need it? Like, there's no yoga on the web. I never came across yoga when I did web development. So why do we need it for React Native?
Yoga is like a replacement, not for CSS. I have no idea of how CSS is working under the hood, and I really want to know. Maybe it will be my next topic. If I one day become a web developer, I will certainly go on how does CSS work, because it's the same. CSS is responsible for this part, but we have no CSS in native, and the native layouting is really different. Back in the day when they created Yoga, you had no Swift UI. I heard like Swift UI is kind of, you can do some flex in Swift UI, but on iOS you only have UIKit in 2016. And UIKit, I don't know if you have ever tried it and tried layouting in UIKit, but it's like constraints programming. You define constraint on your layouts, and I heard it's a nightmare, and it can cause you some really weird crashes, and it's really hard to write, hard to maintain. So Yoga is a way to do it natively, but using the concept of the web everyone knows. It's declarative, it's simple to know, it's simple to write. And this is what makes it powerful. It's not only for React Native, Yoga is what we call platform-agnostic. So because it's a C++ algorithm, you can connect it to other renderer. It's, for example, used in React Native React PDF. I've never used it, but I know you can generate PDF from a tree of React components, and it uses Yoga.
Do you know? Is it used anywhere else? Do you know other places where yoga is used?
It's There's both a library in Swift and in Kotlin. I think it's like Litho for the Swift part, and they're the equivalent for Android. You can
Yeah,
check it on the web, on the Yoga web page. You can find it. I don't know them by heart because I don't use them, but there's quite many applications.
yeah, the layouting with UI kit. I used storyboards when I was like an iOS engineer many years ago, and it was so unbelievable horrible. You said it like the constraints. You randomly put in constraints how a view behaves when it gets bigger or when the like you go to landscape. It was just a total mess and was breaking all the time. And for Android, it wasn't even better. Like for Android, we were writing think XML files, or
Mm.
was it called, to like define the views. I didn't like that at all. So I'm happy that Yoga now exists, and we can use it with React Native. So how does it work under the hood? How can I, like, I mean, if I use a JavaScript library on the web, I kind of know like there are a few JavaScript files and they're providing like an interface to something. How does Yoga work? What is it like? Is it using C++ or is it using native Swift code and Kotlin? How does it work under the hood?
First, if we start from what we all know, the JSX tree that we write in React Native, first it gets translated into the native views tree through the bridge. So I'm talking about old architecture right now,
Mhm.
because it's different in new architecture. And then you create a third tree of what we call shadow nodes, also in native, but shadow nodes only get the styling props, width, height, flex, everything that's related to dimensions. I like, for example, you don't give a color to the shadow nodes because you don't need the color of the view to measure it. I quite like to think that this is why it's called the shadow nodes. And then you create a fourth tree, sorry, made of yoga nodes. Yoga nodes, shadow nodes are still in native. Yoga nodes are in C++, but they got the same properties, like everything that relates to dimensioning stuff. And they also get information from the native, the measure functions. When you have a node that is like an image or a text, you can't go further down, and the native measure function still relies on the platform you use. So we use UIKit function to measure text in iOS, and we also use Java function to measure text in Android, basically. And Yoga doesn't know that. You just give a measure function to your Yoga node saying, okay, it's like a leaf node. You can't go further in the tree. This node is able to measure itself with this function coming from the native or whatever renderer you want to use. Yoga then resolves the tree C++ using those informations. And this is the part I cover in my talk in App.js. It gives it back to the native, and then the native is able to paint it. Yeah, it has the dimensions from Yoga, it has the colors from your JSX, and then everything is painted. In new architecture, as you know, the communication between the JavaScript and the native is made through JSI, so through C++. It means we directly build the shadow nodes are now coded in C++, so it's common between iOS and Android. It used not to be. And the Yoga tree is built directly from GSI. So it's an optimization, and it's code that is now common between the two platforms. It used not to be. It's also what's brought view flattening to iOS when it was just for Android before, because view flattening is made during this part of the process. But after it's the same. Yoga gives the dimension computed in C++, inject it in the native views, and everything is painted. It gets easy when you have drawings on it, but
Yeah, of course.
I explained it.
Yeah, I think that was great for a general overview about how it works, and I think I already got a better picture of what yoga does and how it works. Couple of questions, because I just picked it up. You mentioned view flattening. What exactly does this refer to, or how can I like imagine what happens at that step?
It's one. Sometimes you create views that are just for containers. For example, if you have a raw container because you do want to align two views with each other, you have to create this raw container to have flex direction row.
Mhm.
But this raw container is inside a larger container, and maybe they have the same color. So in the end, it's unnecessary views. View flattening is like popping all the unnecessary containers where you have no difference in border or color or stuff to just keep what's really necessary in the view. But I haven't looked at the algorithm. I know it's possible. It was they made it for Android for performance reasons, because create a native view in Android is quite costful, so they wanted to minimize it. On iOS, they had no problem creating many intermediary containers. Now, because this part has moved to the C++ with GSI, it's common for the two. So I think it's one of the great stuff about new architecture no one talks about, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it definitely sounds really cool, and I don't know how like people said, new architecture is not really impacting performance. I mean, these updates sound like if you have big views with a lot of views, this change could affect performance of your application definitely.
Maybe on iOS, yes. But it's mostly great for the maintenance of the code base because instead of two, you only have one to maintain. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So you also had a talk at an Berlin meetup recently, which is on YouTube, or was it recently? I don't know, couple of months ago, probably, where you took the people on a journey of a little bug. Is this also going to be the story of the App.js talk,
Yeah, it's
basically?
the same, exactly.
Yeah. So I found this one to be really interesting because you started from this bug of my text is flowing over the space, and yeah, I can just use the flex rep solution, which will come up on Stack Overflow immediately. Delphine wouldn't be Delphine if you wouldn't dive deeper into this.
Exactly.
Could you maybe
Because
like
my friend was
share?
to be Sherlock when I was a kid. I love the Sherlock BBC series. Maybe it's like that. I love to dig into stuff. It's like I'm an inspector.
So So maybe you could explain a few of these steps also along the way. I think this is a common problem, like text is overflowing a label, or maybe something else is wrong. How did you uncover the problem? Like, how did you actually, maybe in the first place, debug this? Because if I think about, okay, I understand Yoga is used in my React Native app, and I kind of know that I can set breakpoints in Xcode somewhere, but I wouldn't know how to debug Yoga at this point, and I assume you had to do this at some point. So maybe you can explain a bit more about this bug and like how you fixed it, and also how we could debug Yoga if that's actually possible.
Yeah, I think it's a bug everyone has seen already, at least already once in its React Native life. It's when you have a text in a row, a text near an icon, and the text is a little overflowing out of the screen. And the fix is simple. As you said, you'd have to put a flex shrink on the text. And I even wrote an article back in the days, 4 years ago when I was a young React Native developer. But the, I did understand what I had to use a Frank shrink, but I did not understand why was the text too big in the first place. Because that's the main reason why it was overflowing. The text is too big because it takes its parent size when you look at the raw container. And it's the same on iOS and Android. And when it's the same on iOS and Android, it rings a bell. It must be somewhere. It's the same, but it's nowhere in the JavaScript. So it's somewhere in a common part, but that is not JavaScript. And the answer was the algorithm. But then when you try to unwrap it, it's kind of a nightmare. Because it's like a 3,000 lines of code and it calls itself. So you don't go out of the labyrinth of it. The way I did it was to build like really a simple app with just a text, an icon, a container, and that's it. Not my app where I first had the bug, which was a huge React Native app. And then I could actually put breakpoints on the C++. It's a great interoperability with the native. You can put a breakpoint in the C++ and it stops, just as you could have done in the Swift or Objective-C code. What is nice is that you have the values. You go through the algorithm through the tree of components you created, and you can actually see, okay, width is like 367 here. Okay, so here, okay, we enter this condition. So, it means that we enter this because of this. You actually see what's happening, like literally with the breakpoints. And I took some notes on extra, drew some sketches at the same times. And I know what I was looking for. I was looking for the moment where we were going to measure the text with a too big container, and I found it. I found it because I kind of knew already what I was looking for.
Could you, by the way, also see this? Because I know, like, you have the view and like the text and the icon, and the view of the text was basically flowing over the bounds of the device. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, why the text was out of the bounds. Could you see that problem also if you use, like, I know in Xcode there's this view to see the native views, which then shows like this 3D view of all the native views? Could you in there see that the label was flowing out of bounds, or could you only see this really like when you inspected the width in C++?
I think you see it also in the native view, in the exploded view. I like it.
Yeah, I think that's,
That
yeah.
you see that the text is going out of screen. You're like, yeah, but why?
That talk was great. Definitely. I mean, at this point, the app.js talk is also out, so people can probably, if I don't know when they're going to put this up, look
Yeah,
up the app.js talk, which
it's
takes
gonna be the
also.
same. It is the same version as it did in Berlin. I actually sent the video of Berlin to app.js, and I think they watched it and liked it. Berlin was like maybe in front of 30 or 40 people, so like small audience. App.js is much wider, and it's going to be also a bit shorter because you have only to be App.js is only 20 minutes talk, so have to go straight to the point.
I'm looking forward to that. I will be in the audience as well.
Oh, cool!
Yes.
It'd be great to meet you.
Yes, exactly. I'm excited to meet a lot of people at the app.js that have been here on the podcast. So many. So this is yoga and the layouting. Now you don't only know a lot about yoga. You also know a lot about the new architecture and what it means. You already said about a few of the changes related to yoga. But maybe we also take a step back. I think we haven't talked. I think I talked with Jacek from Unistyles a bit about the new
Yeah, I'm
architecture,
listening
but
to this one currently because I'm
yeah.
interested in this topic.
Exactly, and I found the new architecture to be really interesting. So maybe from your point of view, again, if we're looking at this from the outside, it sounds like a really scary topic because new architecture sounds like we're changing everything. But in your words, what is the new architecture? What does it bring to React Native, and what's included?
I really like the way the React Native core team presented it in their new blog page about it. They introduced it like more conformity with the web. On React Web, you can have suspense, you can have you could not have this in React Native because of the old architecture, and the new architecture is going to bring this to the React Native world. And I really like the way they emphasize that because it makes the right learn once, right, run everywhere, like the motto of React Native, even more accurate. React Native is going to be more React in a way to the new architecture. And so it can also be understandable for people not from coming from the mobile community, but more from the web community. People that have never heard about the bridge before, they may relate to start transition stuff in React. Stuff that I don't know myself because I can't use them in React Native, but now it will be possible.
What are some examples of things that are now possible with the new architecture once it's completely rolled out?
For example, I think for me the main difference, remember the layout callback. You can use layout effect in React, and you can have the positions and stuff on screen. And before rendering it, use these dimensions to adjust them. The common example is the tooltip. You compute where the tooltip has to be, and before even painting it on screen, you readjust the stage. You do that in a use layout effect in React. It was not possible in React Native because in React Native, layouting is asynchronous. You have to go through the bridge to get the measure. You have to run the yoga algorithm that is behind the bridge. And then after an infinity of time, you get the width 8 where you have to put your tooltip. With the new architecture, it's going to be synchronous. So you will be able to compute the position before rendering it, and everything is the renderer is synchronous. So yeah, so we will be able to use layout effect, and we were not before.
Yeah, that's exciting. And with a conversation with Jacek and how he built uni styles, I was also getting excited about C++ and what he's doing. And I think we talked about it. Every developer needs to learn C++. I think the folks from Poland told me they learned C++ in university by now.
You
So,
don't want to know. We were talking about that with my colleague this morning, and I remember I had a bit of informatic at school, at university, and had a C lesson. Like everyone was doing C, not even C++, just C. And I had a horrible result at this exam. It's maybe one of the reasons I didn't become a developer. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at pointers and memory allocation. And when you have to code on paper, maybe I shouldn't do this. But code is not like that.
yeah, I hope. So regarding the new architecture, I assume you have worked a bit with it, or at least spent some time reading about it. Does it require a lot of changes to existing applications if people with apps want to adopt the new architecture in the future, or are these apps mostly staying the same? Let's say from a React Native front end perspective, like.
I think it's going to be quite a change, yes. the recommendation starting from the next version of React Native is to use new architecture for the new project. For the new project from scratch, you are going to be able to build your app with a new architecture and the libraries compatible and everything. The recommendation is not to migrate right now for the existing applications, mostly because of the dependencies. Lots of libraries haven't migrated yet. I read the article about how they migrated Expensify. Software Mention did that. Expensify is now fully new architecture, but they had to do a lot of patches on the external libraries and also had to do a lot of open source. And I think it's great because they brought the new architecture to the real world of developers. There's actually this amazing spreadsheet that Lorenzo shared on Twitter with all the React Native libraries, both from Expo and the community, and where is it for the new architecture. And when you have 2,000 dependencies and only a quarter of them are migrated, it could be hard. And
So
very specific mechanics. I anticipated in my project I'm currently working on, the project, well, I'll be leaving soon, there will be memory issues. I know it.
yeah.
This is my talk from RNAU in September. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, we're excited for that one. So can I still use, like, when I'm using the new architecture, like packages that are not yet like mixing the new architecture and the old architecture? Would that work together in one application?
Yeah, because I think this is what the interrupt layer is supposed to do. And they constantly improve the React Native core team for you to have almost nothing to do, and your component that is using the old renderer, not the fabric renderer, well, now you don't have to write a single line of code in your library, and your component will work in the new architecture through the interrupt layer. So they have worked really hard to make this simple and easy. And I think in 24, the migration is, you almost have nothing to do, I think, in your library to migrate it. But I haven't done it myself, so I can't really say.
Yep. I'm excited to see that. So with React Native 0.70, the new architecture should be the default for new projects.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, that shouldn't be too far out. Like 0.74 was released a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. I think it's going to be like in September or something. 73 was released in August last year, so.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we covered yoga and a bit about the new architecture. Maybe we can also get a bit practical because you actually work on some really interesting client projects at BAM. Maybe you can, I think you said you're working for the first French TV channel. I think we can say that so far. We can't go too deep into things, but you said you're working with a lot of like custom native modules and stuff. Actually, you had a great point here. How to do native when you are just a React Native developer. I like that line because that kind of references me. I'm just a React Native developer. So yeah, how do I get like into native modules and stuff if I'm just a React Native developer?
I think the first thing is not to be afraid.
That's a
Because
good point.
it's quite simple in the end. And the thing that drove me in was, well, we had our own custom bridges. We have 6 of them on the project. And some of them are really simple. And we created using Bob, the library builder. I think it's an utilitarian made by Callstack. Now it's like the Create React Native library CLI. It initializes you a native module with the iOS Android folder. You choose if you want to expose function components of both of them, and it creates you a very simple example with function, for example, I think it's the addition with a plus b function in iOS, Android, and how does it connect to the JavaScript. For the view is just a view where you can change the color during a specific props. And starting from this very simple example, you can just understand how it works easily and how to add your own function. And you don't have to understand how does this API work currently. You just have to get, okay, so if I want to declare a new method with 2 arguments, if this syntax, okay, let's copy paste it and add a third argument. Oh, I don't know how to declare a third element in Objective-C because this Objective-C language is objectively something quite crazy. And then you can ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is really great for this kind of stuff. When you're quite precise in your request and you don't know very well the language, just ask him to do it for you and include it in your code.
I was not following the news, but just 10 minutes before our call, I learned that with the latest version of ChatGPT, I can now have a desktop application with ChatGPT on my
Oh,
Mac, and
cool!
I
I
just
didn't know
installed
that.
this. Yeah,
I've
you can
got that in
download
my
it.
favorites on my Arc Navigator, but desktop would be great too.
It looks good. I haven't used it so far. They say I should open it with just Command Space, but that already opens like Acast. But yeah, it looks good. Recommendation for everyone. You can try that out. And I agree to what you said. I think I did a course for Galaxies on native modules as well. In that course, I was actually using Expo modules. So
Mm.
I know you also have some experience with Expo. Do you know, like, is there a difference between how the native modules in Expo look like and if you do this in like a bare React Native project?
I think it's basically the same. You just have a configuration layer above your Expo module, I think. I've never used it. I'm in bare React Native because we're like a 3 years old project, and 3 years ago Expo was not the same as today. But you just have to add some configuration to assure the continuous native generation is working well, especially, for example, if your native library has to some dependency in your app manifest or your app delegate. If you have to do some stuff when the app starts, then you will have to write some custom code from your config modules. But for the iOS and Android folders and the core code of your functions, yeah, it's the same.
Okay, that's good to know because I found this actually like writing the native module, as you said, if you have this basic template which Expo also gave you of like, okay, this is a simple function in Kotlin and this is a Swift function and this is how you can change this. I found this to be actually quite magical, especially there's also, I think in the example usually included a view, so like a Swift UI view. I don't know exactly, but I think so. And you can, it's so easy to connect that in your React Native application. And then you have in your JSX this, here is my native view, and it just renders like a green
Yeah,
box. And I'm getting so excited about, oh, this green box is from Swift. I'm
congratulations!
happy
You
as a,
created your first bridge.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like you unlocked a new power. I
Yeah,
haven't tried the
exactly.
export template, but it's exactly the same with in React Native, and you're like, okay, I can access a whole world of possibilities right now.
Right. I kind of recommend this. I would recommend this to everyone just for the fun. Like it takes you probably half an
Yeah,
hour. Just do it and you will feel so like you have all the power in the world about your React Native app once you
yeah,
understand
completely.
that. For example, the biggest thing is probably that the mindset shift. This means that even if you at some point in your company you encounter a problem because React Native does not work with the native stuff you want it to, you can always drop down to native and build it yourself. It's that easy. It's not like this is rocket science and you need to hire a company to build a native module.
No, no, I completely agree with you. You never learn quite so quick that by doing it yourself in a simple example. Don't try to understand the core React Native code. Just do it in a small example yourself. For example, one of the native model we have on my project is very simple. I needed one specific encryption function, HMAC 256, if you want to know. And of course, encryptions has to be done on the native side. JavaScript
Mhm.
does not do that. And I couldn't find any React Native library that was doing this specific encryption. It was for one of your third-party libraries required it. I was like, okay, let's just bridge it myself. And I have this native model with just one function that called crypt in this very specific, and I don't need anything else. And it took me like a day to configure it. And
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's magic, magical powers definitely once you understand that part. Also, I'm interested because you said your project is 3 years old and you're not using Expo. Did you consider switching it to Expo? And did you have like reasons why you're not going or switching to Expo?
We
If
did,
you can share that.
yeah, we did the study internally in 2024, like at the beginning of the day. I really hope that they could do the migration by the end of the year. The main reason why we want to do it is like I think the Expo ecosystem, mainly the libraries, is more maintained and more active than the community one. For example, pull requests are merged quicker on the Expo world. For example, for what I call the privacy manifest on iOS Gate, when everyone suddenly declare a privacy manifest before the 1st of May 2024. Some libraries in Expo, they already merged the pull request declaring it, and I'm thinking of React Native device info. On the community world, the pull request was still opened when I needed it. So it's, I don't know what will happen. I hope that the community will go on for existing project, but because there are so many people working on this on Expo and it's a full team, I think it's really great to rely on this ecosystem. It's the same for the new architecture. When you watch the spreadsheet of the migrated libraries and not migrated libraries, the Expo libraries are mostly in advance compared to the other one. Globally, the pioneers of new architecture were in the community, but the Expo world, in average, is further, I think. And we will have, I think, more and more developers that know how to use only Expo. So even for a heritable point of view, higher ability on the project, because I'm still working for a client, I think it's best for us if the app uses it. But we have to do the migration, and as I said, we have a lot of weird native stuff. For example, we use Swift Package Manager for some of our dependencies, where we had to manually edit the I don't forget the name, project, the terrible Xcode file where you configure everything. And we will have to code this in a config module Expo, and it will take some time. So it has a cost too, and it will be possible, but my client has to pay for it. And I don't know if it is right now or not.
Yeah, I assume that companies are usually a bit hesitant because they don't really see a benefit. You say like, okay, yeah, we do this cool thing migration and it will take us 2 months and cost you X amount, and then
it will be the same.
Like the app is still the same.
Another aspect that, for example, we don't need EIS right now because we have all our setup with Fastlane working. Of course, in 2025, we will have to have switched from App Center for Code Push, but Code Push will still exist in another form, so I'm not worried about that. But so it's a huge benefit from Expo that we don't need, basically, because we already have everything. It's another great benefit, I think, it's that you can switch if you have a huge team of developers, maybe lots of web developers, they can come to a project, they don't even need Xcode, they just download the native builds from EAS and code some React Native. And it's fluid, and it's really cool that everyone is able to do everything. The project I'm working on, we are only 2 mobile developers full-time on it. We'll stay like 2 or 3 years on the project. We don't need to have this fluidity between teams, so we won't benefit it either. So maybe it's one of the reasons why we stay in React Native for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not too bad. You have to weigh up the options, and in your case, it's probably not worth the effort at this moment. Maybe you're gonna have to reevaluate later, but anyway, you're gonna leave soonish as well.
Upgrade, because it's one of the painful parts of the project.
Right. Speaking about the future, to wrap it up for today's episode, you've been working a lot with Yoga. We just saw the Yoga 3.0 release, which brought some like small updates and improvements. Do you know what's coming to Yoga in the future? Because you also said that Yoga is kind of like bringing React Native closer to the web and like making it the experience more similar. Is there anything else planned in Yoga, like to align the visions of React on the web and React Native in the future?
I think it's precisely the intention. Exactly like new architecture, they introduced Yoga 3.0 saying it will get closer to the web. Its conformity is greater now. The change they made in Yoga 3.0, it's like small in the appearance. It's like right and left margin. When you're in row reverse mode, you don't reflip it.
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing. I still don't know where are my right and my left. Anyways, but if they want to have more conformity with the web, it will be breaking changes. So they want to give us the choice. This is the future of Yoga. More conformity, but also more configuration from a developer point of view. So you can actually choose what you activate or not. Maybe in your project will have the Yoga fully web compliant and the old project because of migrations will stay on this old. But I think it's really yoga. Like, it's really configurable, it's really powerful, and it's really React Native. Like, learn once, write anywhere. And I would, yeah. For example, I think there's stuff about min and max weights that not fully respected when they result flex lengths. It's one of the example I'm thinking of. Maybe the flex shrink parameter will change too. I don't know. We'll see.
That's going to be exciting. So we definitely have a reason to bring you back then in the future. We can then hopefully also talk about how you're revolutionizing the market here in Europe, and maybe you've then also built something for the water in Paris.
Yeah.
I assume actually probably there is already an app like where you can see where you can get the free water, right? That there should be.
When there's a great idea for an app, there's a chance it already exists.
Yeah.
What I'm going to be working on is electric vehicles, and we are going to go fully electric in 10 or 20 years. So we'll need developers that can handle this. And the co-founders are from Uber, so they know the vehicle world and the tech world.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that application. Even if I don't use it, I don't have an electric car yet. Hopefully next year, and maybe then I will use your app. So, Delphine, thank you so much for taking the time for diving deep into these problems. Where can people find out more about you? What should they check out about you?
They can find my Twitter account and Delphine Bugner, just my name together without points or everything. Also on GitHub, of course.
Of course. I will also put the link to your Berlin meetup in the show notes. And also, if the App.js talk is already released on YouTube, I will put this in the links. Otherwise, people keep an eye on this. The App.js happened on 22nd May. So this video comes out a bit later. If the App.js videos are live, go check out Delphine's talk then.
Yeah.
So, Delphine, thank you so much and all the best for your next job.
Thank you, Simon. It was really
Bye.
Bye.